Hello everyone. This is going to be a video that I feel like is going to be a pretty hot take. However, I'd appreciate it if you guys heard me out through the rest of this video. Right. So, as of recent, a few games have been announcing no-gacha, the most notable being Duet Night Abyss, and apparently, as of recent, Tower of Fantasy as well has decided to go down this route. And so it's made me think about, there's so many people celebrating this and, talking shit about gacha, and to be honest, it's completely fucking deserved. There should actually probably be more hate against gacha, at least the way these companies do it and sell it. But I'm gonna be honest, I'm a pretty big gacha fan, right? And I don't just mean like the games in general, but like the actual system behind it. Now, to give you guys some lore behind who I am and what it is that I used to do when I was gaming before gacha in these anime games, I've never really been much of a gamer, right? I think gamer is a hard overstatement because even though I do play games a lot, I've always hyper fixated on one game at a time, and basically my whole life what I've mainly fixated on are competitive multiplayer games, right? For the last half decade, really the only game I've consistently grinded on is Fortnite, and I am vastly above probably the average player in that game, though not pro level, but I'm far enough to where you can tell I have years of having played the game, right? And when I play that game for like a few hours, sometimes a lot of hours if I'm playing with the boys that day, I really would like to just, quickly go on a gacha game, play it for 4 or 5 minutes, which is very common to complete dailies on things like WUA, ZZZ, HSR, and Genshin, and call it a day. Right. I noticed this most recently when I was playing DNA, that although I'd been super hyped about no-gacha and I was like glazing it to the high heavens, I quickly realized that because there's a lot of grind in return for there being no-gacha, I actually pretty quickly, didn't grind it, right? Like I just didn't grind it. I left it on like the bench for a bit, and now I don't even really feel like returning to it. And maybe this is just me, maybe it's just me who's become like very accustomed to this gacha space, but as I mentioned earlier, it's not like it's something new for me to really grind and put in hours into a game multiple times a week, right? I do this all the time with Fortnite, and arguably in that game, you need to have a lot more mechanical skill, a lot more, mental, fortitude, capacity, whatever the fuck you want to call it, to actually understand and compete against real life humans as compared to bots in these gacha games. But for some reason, it's just so much harder for me to, spend hours every single day on, let's say, a anime open world game as compared to a competitive game, at least for me myself. And this has led to me obviously dropping a few of my gacha accounts because in my opinion I was playing too much already, and now I'm down to 2 HSR accounts. I am planning on making a return to ZZZ because of Yu Xiao Xunguang. I don't remember what she's called, right? The reason I'm getting confused on the name is because there's an HSR character coming in 4.x named Yao Guang, and then Yu Xunguang, I believe, is the ZZ character. So I get them mixed up when I think about it, right? But let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. Are you like similar to me? Do you think I'm just like too much of a gacha shill these days? I really think that like I think the best way I can put this to where like my viewers of my channel would understand it as best as possible, is legit vertical versus horizontal investment, right? If you remove gacha from a game, you remove the time gate, you allow everybody to have the ability to obtain everything through just putting in a lot of hours into grinding, then that's kind of vertical investment, right? Because you could just instantly grind for everything. Once you're satisfied with what you have, you just take a break from the game or don't play the game as much, and then you come back when you have that hunger to grind again, right? Whilst these gacha games, at least the ones I can relate to the most, being like ZZZ, HSR, etc., these ones are like horizontal investment. You really don't play them all that much at all unless you go out of your way to really learn the mechanics and, you know, min-max your clears. But if you're not like one of these people and you're in the large majority of casuals, you will simply just play the game 5-10 minutes a day, call it a day, and move on. And over time, despite it feeling like you're not putting a crazy amount of time into said game, you're still being rewarded with being able to attain a few characters every single patch. And for most people, that's enough for them. And I genuinely think that that's enough for me, right? Hot take. I understand, but I don't know. Let me know if you guys think the same way down in my comments. I think my bigger problem with like the gacha system isn't necessarily the way it works, but how much companies predatorize it, right? For example, if we were to go over here on my free-to-play account, yes, technically I have the bonuses for everything, right? Because I've never spent money before. But if you've already spent money on this game, then the bonuses just become weaker and weaker to the point where this 130 Canadian dollar pack for me would eventually only give me 50 pulls. And 50 pulls isn't even enough to hit soft pity once. And it's not enough to guarantee, of course, because a lot of these games have what you call a 50-50, where you have a 50% chance to get a standard and a 50% chance to actually get the limited character that you're specifically targeting. So if I wanted to actually guarantee, no matter what, get a guaranteed 5-star character through the $100 packs, I'd have to spend 500 and something Canadian dollars in my currency to guarantee one 5-star character. That is completely egregious, especially in a game like this specifically, where you have 6 other copies of the character that you can invest into, and lycones, and you can refine these lycones up to 5 times as well. It's insane how many investment options there are, despite how time-gated the currency is and how expensive directly buying said currency is as well. I think they should just make, you know, time-gated currency like jades, pulls, and all that in whatever translation for other gacha games. Just make it so much more bountiful, and please reduce the prices of jades and, you know, the direct currency for pulling on whatever it is that's limited in that game, right? Because truthfully, the prices on this shit is completely fucking egregious in my opinion, right? It's not even like slightly bad or like, you know, oh, I can see, you know, it's not too bad even though it's pretty predatory. Like, no, this is some of the worst and most predatory monetization I think I've seen in my history of playing any games at all. The second I entered the gacha space, I was absolutely astounded by how predatory it was, and as well as how normalized it was. It's really fucking bad. And I'm not trying to like attack anyone who spends money on these games, because I myself have done this for my Cassie account and as well for my Phanon account. However, it's just egregious, and I feel like making things cheaper and more accessible to people would just be a win-win at the end of the day, and it would lead to a lot less complaints for these gacha games, especially these big company titles. I understand why they do it, because they want to make as much money as possible, but if you're a big company like Hoyo, you can legit do whatever the fuck and your game will still be successful simply because of how popular the brand specifically is. I really wish that they would take more, you know, effort into not being as predatory and simply making an incredible game. And maybe, you know, I'll take back everything I'm saying here, because they are currently working on an insanely detailed open world MMO fantasy game, and maybe that's the one that doesn't have crazy gacha and instead is just a great game in of itself. But I wish they'd just give these games that treatment as well, right? Why do they have to constantly make a new game every year or 2 years to try and capitalize on a new audience instead of simply continuously improving their older games? Well, we know the answer why, but I feel like they'd still benefit from making the older games better in many of those, you know, aspects, right? Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts in the comments, and peace out.